Y'all sound so stupid. Y'all sound mad stupid. And before you even comment, go look up what the purpose of minimum wage was. Matter of fact, I'll tell you. Minimum wage was to keep people from being in poverty, from being poor. Minimum wage does not equal poor. It's supposed to keep you from being.
Welcome to Pegasus versus the World, where we take on challenges, comedy, trending topics, and some travel. I don't have the City Boy, man. I had to get a new interface today. So I have everything, but it won't take City Boy on my sound pad. City Boy, City Boy. So I'll say it myself right now. I'll get it in there, man. We'll figure it out. Anyway, what's going on, man? Minimum wage shouldn't be a livable wage. Or shouldn't be a livable wage. Let's see what he's saying. This is Dave from the suburbs. We don't have a title on here. Well, y'all can check him out on TikTok. This came across my desk today, and I thought it was an interesting conversation. Let's dive into it because minimum wage is pretty fire right now, I thought. One of my homies was working at Chipotle. I could have swore he's making like $15 or $19 an hour. That's here in Colorado. The price of living in Colorado is crazy, but we'll talk about it. But yeah, man. Let's just see what homie's saying, and y'all tap into the comments because I'm curious what you think about minimum wage.
Y'all sound so stupid. Y'all sound mad stupid. And before you even comment, go look up what the purpose of minimum wage was. Matter of fact, I'll tell you. Minimum wage was to keep people from being in poverty, from being poor. Minimum wage does not equal poor. It's supposed to keep you from being poor. Do you understand that? If we wanted to match the minimum wage accounting for productivity and inflation, all that from the 1960s, 1970s, we would have to pay $20 to $30 an hour. Bare minimum. To match how it was when you compare prices, productivity, and inflation from the 1960s to today. You have to think about that. You have to. And
this is interesting what he's saying because I went into the workforce in 1994 and I was a dishwasher and minimum wage was just a little bit over $5 an hour. And that's what I did. I worked for $5 an hour. I was 14. I wasn't supposed to work, so I was kind of like under the table, I believe, at what was it? Tony's, I think. Tony Pedoni off of 8th Street. You know, that place is, he's probably not alive anymore. He was the coolest. Oh, my God. He could cook so well. It was an Italian restaurant. Tony was so cool. Almost cut my finger off cutting lettuce over there. Anyways, 14. Then I changed the game up. I started landscaping, mowing lawns, and I made $8 an hour, which minimum wage was still $5 an hour. And I remember in 1998, minimum wage was like $5.15. And I decided to work for a telemarketing company and work for telemarketing companies because they would pay $10 to $11 an hour, and you could get commissions and things if you were really on point with your sales. That's probably why I can talk somewhat well on this camera today. I did tell a lot. I worked at Future Call. I worked at Telequest. I worked at Current. I worked at MCI. You remember MCI WorldCom? What? Yeah, I worked there. All those places. And I worked at one other place too, one other call center. Sometimes I have nightmares that I still work at a call center, though. It's kind of crazy. Anyways, yeah, man. And I worked at those places because minimum wage. I always thought he's saying it's supposed to, it's like the minimum they could give you. It's in the title, minimum wage, the minimum they could give you. So, I mean, I particularly stayed away from that, right? That was just me. I was like, man, this is just going to be the long road. So I did telemarketing. Dude, I was painting houses on the side, doing telemarketing, selling weed. And yo, when I was selling, let's say the greenery for YouTube's sake, that was in a time where you could go to jail and prison for selling it. I wasn't selling big amounts, you know, get little QPs and run them off in little baggies, you know what I'm saying? But anyways, I was doing all that just to hustle to get my bread right. But I see these people, and I guess I don't understand the job market nowadays because inflation is a mother effer. But I'm telling you guys, at the height of, like minimum wage was $5.15 in Colorado Springs in the year 1998 or something like that. So when I see people making 19 to 15 an hour, I'm like, that seems good. I guess inflation is, I mean, I feel inflation. I guess I might not understand because I have not worked a 9 to 5 job since the year 2004. Okay. I started doing shows. I didn't make much off shows. I would get paid like $100, $250 to open for an artist. But my hustle was selling merchandise, t-shirts and CDs. You get your t-shirts for about $5-6. You sell them for 15 or 20, and you get your CDs for about $1 to $1.20. You sell them for 5 to 10. And I just hustled So I didn't even really calculate how much I was making, but I'll tell you this much. About 8 years into my career, I was $40,000 in debt from buying merchandise, from investing in music videos, from investing in promotion and driving on tour and renting cars to drive on tour. I was about $40,000 in debt. That was my college debt. And I started throwing concerts. That's when I started making money. I was like, I paid that debt down and eventually paid it off. So I don't even know what I was making because with their minimum wage, if they're able to break even, they're making more than I was as a starving artist. Because again, I went into the negative $40,000 in like 8 or 10 years of touring, doing a show, blah, blah, blah. And I was frugal. I wasn't in the club buying bottles. I couldn't afford to buy bottles. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. I do feel like I am a little disconnected from what this generation is feeling. So I like to hear them out because I don't think it's fair to just leave a blind eye, blind ear to things that are affecting the next generation.
Livable wage is wage activity and inflation from the 1960s to today. You have to think about that. You have to. And a livable wage is where you could put a roof on top of your head, food on the table, clothes on your back, healthcare. I don't know why we pay for healthcare. That is the most stupidest shit I've ever heard of, right? And other things that you just need to do the bare minimum. But I'm be honest, those four are probably the bare minimum. And probably transportation, whether you take a bus, whether you drive for and get.
Healthcare is BS in America. It's crazy. I pay like a pretty good amount to cover my family. And, I'm getting hit. People were I told my story on this channel and people were like, you need to get a better insurance. Because my daughter just went in for a basic, like she was coughing, she was getting sick, and we had to take her in because it was getting a little extreme. She had croup. Very common for kids to get croup. They give you a steroid, you out of there. But that thing was, I think, 5 Gs. And then ARC pay, I had to pay $2,500 of that. And I'm like, damn, I don't want to think about money when it comes to my kids making sure they're okay and they're going to live, right? So that's a stinger. I ain't tripping. That's a whole nother conversation. Healthcare is another conversation. Let's see where he goes, though.
Car shows, all that. You have to think. You have to think about the needs of the people and how much they actually need to bring it in to match and actually be out of poverty. That is the whole point of minimum wage. And to address the comment I seen earlier, an apartment is not a luxury. I would more say a house is. An apartment is not a luxury. As long as you have the ability to put a roof on top of your head, that is not a luxury.
See, I don't know. I wish I had someone here with me to give me some pushback because I hear what he's saying. But when you've traveled the world, it is a luxury. Actually, water that you can drink without getting sick is a luxury. The fact that you can go to a restaurant and let them put ice cubes in your water. See, when people don't travel, they don't see, when you go to Colombia and Panama, you can't flush toilet paper down the toilets because the pipes out there are all messed up. You wipe your ass and you throw it in a little bucket next to you. So yeah, having I don't know, maybe I'm not trying to say, so the standard for Americans and people in the Western world, the first world, I get what he's saying. But the world overall, we're kind of entitled when we say stuff like that. An apartment is, he's insinuating an apartment is poverty. brother, I've seen some real poverty, and I've seen that in Detroit. Sheesh, I remember when we performed at Harpo's. I was like, what the happened to this place? Anyways, um, was minimum wage originally designed to keep people above poverty? Question mark. Let's see what Chat GPT says. I don't want it to think for me, but I just wonder if it has some answers. In short, yes, one of the original purposes of minimum wage was to help workers earn enough to avoid destitution and extreme poverty, but it was also designed to serve other goals. Here's a more nuanced look. Early USA minimum wage, the fair hold on, I don't have time for this. This just in the 40s and 50s, did minimum wage allow a person to work one job, buy a house, comma, get a car, and provide for a full family? Question mark. Yes, if you were a white male, bro, yes, if you were a white male breadwinner working full time in a good job in the 1940s and 50s, the minimum wage went much further than it does today. And it was possible in many parts of the country to afford modest home car, but there are big caveats. Let's break it down. Hold on, man. Hold on, dog. Why did you say white male? Question mark. If there was one black man working, making minimum wage, working full time in that time period, why wouldn't he get the same outcome as a white male? Question mark. I'm curious to see what it says here. In theory, any man, black or white, working full time at a minimum wage should have been able to earn the same. In practice, though, there were several big reasons why black workers were much less likely to get the same economic outcome. Okay. I understand. I'm not trying to act like there was not racism in the 40s. You know what I'm saying? But the way it answered it, it was just like, dog, like, ay caramba, like, I don't know, man. Anyways, I get it. And there were more opportunities for white males in that time. I get it. Hold on. Okay, I'm getting off track now. Now it's effing me up because I was reading some statistics. And I'm trying to remember if it was from the 50s. But black people started building their own things. Remember Black Wall Street, how it got burnt down? Like, fools had black banks. They had the statistic of black households staying together. You know, even though there was a lot of racism and bad things happening to black folks in America, there were some things that we flourished at. I just don't anyway. All right, man. Okay, let me listen to more of this. I'm not mad. I'm not saying,
On top of your head, that is not a luxury.
people ain't held back. I get it, but hold on.
It is not a luxury. As long as you have the ability to put a roof on top of your head, that is not a luxury.
Bro, how? Maybe I'm tripping, man. Maybe I see these homeless people. I see, the poverty across the world. It absolutely is a luxury. It's a freaking privilege, and I'm so blessed to have it, and I work so hard. So I don't know. Maybe I'm tripping.
If you are not able to, then you are in poverty. That's the difference. In a luxury mansion, maybe like a 5-bedroom, 4-bathroom, that sounds like a luxury. But if you got your 2-bedroom,
that's actually what I live in. Yo, fuck. Oh, damn. I live in a 5-bedroom house, 4-bath. Yo, friend, but I work. I've worked man. I was 40 grand in debt, worked my way out of debt. I've done so many hustles. I'm 45 years old. I don't own my house. I rent. Oh, caramba. Anyways, I guess this is why we think different probably. He's probably younger. I was in his position. I was probably talking just like him at his age.
Bathroom. Like, that's enough that you need.
Anyway, sheesh. I don't know, guys. Maybe I'm out of touch. Maybe I need to watch some more of these and get a little more in touch. I don't know why I get tricked. Okay, I'm going to just keep it real for 1 second. I don't know how I feel, so I'm just kind of spitting off the cuff. I was sold this I'm oppressed, I come from slavery. Poor woe is me. And I used to feel that way when I was younger. Cry at the slavery movies like, I can't believe these people would do this to us, blah, blah, blah. However, all my relationships in real life with white folks, Mexican folks, Asian folks, black folks has always been 100. Always. And so I'd be like, yo, why? Eventually I broke the chains of that emotional stigma. And I actually get furious because I feel like every fucking time I turn around, you're telling me what I can't do because of my fucking color. And I just don't want to hear it. Because guess what? Sometimes it has been true. I've ran into a couple of like racial barriers, like trying to throw concerts. And let's say the club owner was a little apprehensive because, sometimes our audience might bring violence and I had to show and prove and do all this jumping through hoops to kind of show what I can do. And I can bring a different audience and do all these other things. Boom, bye, I get it. But I don't focus on it. I just keep moving, right? So when ChatGPT, the new social norm and intelligent blah, blah, if you were a white male, it's just like if a person had a full-time job and was making minimum wage, they could do this. At that time, there were racial barriers. Sometimes it was harder for certain races to get jobs, blah, blah, blah. But if a black man got a job for minimum wage and worked full time, what? He don't get the same, it's minimum wage. So I don't know. I just got a little triggered on that because I'm just like, bro, I didn't even ask that. I just asked one question. Just answer it. Anyways, you guys let me know, man. Am I lost my mind? I probably have. I'm trying to figure it out as I go. I love y'all, man. I don't have the city boy, so all I can do is say bye now. But I'll get the city boy back. All right, peace.